TERFCAST.
I need to because we're going to talk about how he's been 7 times in the store. I need to culture jump back.
Pop these trannies like a pilly sissy, you a frilly sissy at the con with the prissy sissies and them faggy sissies. You speak up and they stabbing skissies, cream they panties pissy. OJY, not a tranny sissy, you a fan of sizzy on the dick in my George Gardner on my phone. You wanna fuck with no hard on, bitch, quit your deep ass modes. Only stroke your bone alone, 45 minutes from the hormones. Step your pussy up, or your dead name's on your gravestone.
Welcome everyone to
Argument of
episode
trans,
5
be
of
gender,
TERFCAST. I'm adult human female Karen.
And I am Fauxy. I'm not a TIM anymore because I don't identify as trans. So you're gonna have to start calling me a Chet, chemically enhanced trap. That I'm really into that right now.
Oh, I love that. All right.
I've also heard scam used, just surgically or chemically altered male. So that's more like a transposition of trap. But both very lovely acronyms. Foxy is stoned for this episode, so it could end up being an experimental comedy experience.
All right, good. Yeah.
Let's hope that it's better than what that implies, though.
Yeah, I really do.
This is like how when I talk to my roommate, he is when he gets stoned, like his vocal patterns of getting stoned rub off on me, so I end up saying things like "oh, my luge," because like he's super new at it and he gets goofy, so that's what.
Oh.
It's an inside joke in my life.
That's so sweet about that. And like your roommate seems like such a sweet nerd.
He's not a nerd. He's a cool guy.
If he's your roommate, he's a nerd.
Let's move along.
All right.
Lead story of
Orange
the
Man Dad
cast this week. Yes, the Trump Cheeto is at it again. He is. It's not again. It's most of the things bad that people associate with Trump is just his administration. And he's just like an incompetent avatar for all this stuff. Like, it's just like all his like departments are like doing memos and shit. And it's like, you think he's involved in that? My ass. So
no, he can't even read.
No, he's dumb as shit. I'm honestly kind of like Trump at this point because it's not him. I mean, he's a racist, but like everything else is like, he's not doing any of the things that are bad. So it's all just demagoguery. And
yeah, he's just a grifter.
I'm a fan. He's just so funny.
It's just,
I would honestly, I gotta admit, I would vote for him over like Joe Biden.
I guess.
Sorry to all the women who've had their pussies grabbed by Trump.
Okay, so Trump wrote a memo. Well, Trump didn't. But
He wrote the memo.
Trump tweeted a memo. So what happened? What did he do? What did they do? What did his people do?
Health and Human Services.
Yeah, Health and Human Services want to revise what's known as Section 1557, the non-discrimination protections found in the Affordable Care Act. The Obama administration had interpreted the protections on the basis of sex to include gender identity, and the Trump administration seeks to reverse that interpretation. In fact, HHS even goes further and argues that sex stereotyping should no longer be protected, ignoring a Supreme Court precedent recognizing such stereotyping as a form of illegal discrimination. The scope of the proposed regulation mirrors a leaked memo from last year proposing to erase transgender people from recognition throughout the federal government.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean I saw that there were a few different like articles about this being shared around, but the one that you put in our Google Doc was a Think Progress one, which might be particularly over the top, but the language in this, some of the things were like war on trans people, completely disregards transgender people's humanity, erase transgender people from recognition.
Right.
One idiot reporter pressed Trump. Oh, they didn't say idiot reporter. I added the word idiot, but I think it sounds like such a dumb question. But a reporter asked Trump, should doctors be forced to perform transgender reassignment surgeries? And it's like, isn't
He
that
said, I don't know. What kind of fucking question is that? What kind of, if you're going to a doctor who feels forced to do a trans surgery, they're not going to do a good job regardless. Like, so why would you ever go under the knife with somebody who's not like super, into getting your money? Like, come on.
Isn't it a
like
specialization?
This whole thing to me is, I have a complicated relationship with it because I am actually getting some surgery still, and the non-discrimination protections are definitely helping with that. But still, I don't think that I should feel I need this surgery. So, kind of this availability to me. I was actually like pretty much, I don't know if I would say like I was pressured into it by a bunch of HSTS exposure, but it didn't help. It really didn't. I got to be honest with
What
that.
didn't help?
It didn't help me not feel like I needed surgery. I didn't even think about surgery until that group. So.
Well, yeah, I do think like exposure to such, other people. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, think about how many people like have tattoos, like because their friends have tattoos, and then their friends get tattoos, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like that's even a thing that I question. Like, is there? I wonder how big of a difference there is between these people who like get absolutely covered head to toe in tattoos. I mean, I think if you talk to those people, they would talk about like almost feeling depressed when they went a long time without getting tattoos, like, or feeling like if they didn't have tattoos that they wouldn't be themselves, or like the people who get like fucking horns implanted in their heads and stuff. Like, I have to wonder what the big differences are. You know what I mean? I just think that anybody can come up with something to focus on that they feel like they need to be themselves. I guess I'm getting off track. What did the orange man do?
No, it's an interesting tangent though. Something else that I find interesting about this is this isn't getting as much coverage as, remember the whole trans people won't be erased thing?
With the military?
No, it wasn't even just that. That was just concurrent with it. The Trump administration, this is when the memo, before that was, I just mentioned, in the tail end of this came out that they were proposing to, I don't even know how they would do this, quote unquote, erase trans people from recognition throughout the federal government.
Yeah.
So I guess just stop talking about trans as a thing. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
I don't mind that at all. I mean, like, maybe there will be some legal disadvantages to being trans now. Maybe that's actually a good thing. Think about, like, all the stuff that's, been happening with, trans, predators being recognized as women. That's due to legal advantage of transness. Me being able to, I'm not saying I'm gaming the system to do this because I think it probably will help my dysphoria. But I've still been so like critical about my dysphoria that it's not as like acute anymore about it still. So it almost feels like more of just an aesthetic enhancement that like I won't die if I don't get. Right. Yeah, I very much relate to the Andrea Long Chu article about it's called something like quote unquote "My new vagina won't make me happy." Mm-hmm. So yeah, if she can say something like that publicly, I feel comfortable with this.
Yeah, I read that. When you first sent it to me, I was like, "Oh, what is this nonsense?" And then
it's actually it's really like good. It a lot. It's one of the best articles in the mainstream because it was in the New York Times about transness in a long time. But that's not the article we're talking about.
No, we're not talking about that. So continuing with the language used in this article, one of the things that
this is like more of an aesthetic point, but I would just go off, please.
One of the things that was in there was that they were talking about this footnote, this like hateful footnote. Oh, this demon footnote, and the footnote says. Policies of covered entities that result in unwelcome exposure to or by persons of the opposite biological sex where either party may be in a state of undress, such as in changing rooms, shared living quarters, showers, or other shared intimate facilities, may trigger hostile environment concerns under Title IX. Blah, 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 a bunch of stuff. And then there's like a quote from some maybe it's something under Title IX. That says, admitting women to an all-male school would undoubtedly require alterations necessary to afford members of each sex privacy from the other sex in living arrangements.
This is in the same HHS memo?
Yeah, this is in the HHS memo. This is the hateful footnote. And then it says, most people have a special sense of privacy in their genitals, and involuntary exposure of them in the presence of people of the other sex may be especially demeaning or humiliating. And then the article goes on to say that the HHS menu is, quote, based entirely on nonsensically interpreting the word sex in a way that completely erases transgender people's lived experiences. So that's the hateful footnote. And lived experiences are important, I guess, in defining sex.
Yeah, that's pretty. That almost sounds like the best argument for trans redefining sex to me, to be honest, because it's just so vague that it's like trans people's experience of sex is having always known or some shit. And that's not true of all trans people at all, by the way.
Right.
And even the ones that it is, like...
What do you know?
Right.
What do you actually know? You know what it's like to have a vagina?
You don't know that, like, sex is... Never mind. Go ahead. I lost my train of thought.
Experimental podcast.
I'm cutting that out.
No. What could you possibly know? Like, that's what confuses me about gender identity. Like what could you, like, oh, I always knew I was a woman. I saw, like, this big bearded trucker guy be like, oh, I always knew I was a woman. I always loved cross-dressing. Like, you're not a gynophile, Harry. Like, you're not a woman. Like, what have you always known? Like, you've always known what it's like to have a vagina. You've always known, like, what else does it mean to be a woman? Like, I understand, like, you could say, I always have known that I feel closer to the patterns I see women exhibiting. That's fine. I feel better in the presence of women. That's fine. I relate to women better. That's fine. I identify with women strongly, so strongly that, like, I'm interested in their culture and what they're doing. That's fine. How can you identify as a woman? It makes no fucking sense.
It's stupid. You're right. All right, more on this memo. Let's talk about the part about sex stereotyping. Like,
I need to see what the actual memo says, because I feel like this article is so full of, like, disingenuous bullshit, and like maybe like I can't even comment on it until I see what the memo says, because I don't even trust this article to report properly.
Seeks to reverse interpretation. It just goes further. Use of sex stereotyping should no longer be protected.
Yeah, and that language, even in the article, confused me. Like, to no longer protect sex stereotyping? Like, you mean to no longer protect against sex stereotyping? I'm just really confused. Like, if that were true, that would be very, very, very bad. It would be like, I guess, on our way to like Handmaid's Tale shit. But like, I just really don't trust Think Progress to report on this accurately.
There was a different article that I had on this, and this is the one that I kept.
Well, another disingenuous thing that they said was, even before all of these rollbacks, transgender people were already one of the most vulnerable groups in the country. According to the U.S. Trans Survey, transgender people face far higher rates of homelessness, suicide attempts, and serious psychological distress. Manifestations of the massive rates of discrimination they face in school, at work, when seeking shelter, when interacting with police and healthcare, and even just in public spaces. One, the transgender...
I took the trans survey.
Okay, well...
I did. Back in 2015, I took that survey. And I ended up looking at the results when they finally came out, like 2 years later. And I remember it was like something like a third of the respondents were like AFAB NBs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, this survey's bunk now.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you very much. And like I think they kind of take everyone together so that they can come up with stats that help their case and push down stats that don't. So they can just be like, they don't have to say, 11, this is just a made up stat, but like 11% of trans women were in prison. They can just be like, 12% of transgender people have been to prison. Right? And they don't have to like actually report like, well, it was like really high with trans women. And then they can also say like 40% of trans people have been sexually assaulted. And then people will like go and take that and say 40% of trans women have faced sexual assault. And it's like, but if you actually like dig down deeper, because other surveys have done so, it's actually AFAB non-binaries and trans men who have
Don't forget my favorite stat, which is 70% of trans women have been sexually assaulted by police. So it's like that's like saying like 80% of I don't know rockets have ridden on a unicycle on top like shit like this is like, it's just so specific. It's totally ridiculous.
I don't even know where that like even kind of sort of comes from. That one. Like, I mean, I know like which meme, or not meme, but like which, dumb trans sharing thing it comes from, but like I don't even know what they're like kind of trying sort of to quote, like what actual study. It's just like somebody was like 70, yeah, that sounds right. Just right. Like typed it.
Yeah, so that's just the kind of like stats that you're dealing with, and like in transness, it's all just totally nothing. You know what stat I want to see? And I feel like I could probably find this out from the U.S. Trans Survey. I need to go back and look at every category that they did. But, I want to find out what the AGP-HSTS split is.
Oh, I can tell you right now.
In transsexness. Oh, do you know what it is?
It's really hard to read it from the way that they report it, but only 20% of trans women consider themselves straight. Which is
there you go.
Pretty close. I mean, the Blanchardian split is 20/80, with 20% HSTS and 80% AGP. And in cultures where individuality is not as beloved as in the West. It seems to be like the opposite, where it's mostly HSTS. But anyway, the way they report it is weird though, because they break it down into like queer, genderqueer, straight,
right,
lesbian. Yeah, so it's like there's kind of, but yeah, only 20% by appearances appear to be only attracted to men. But
very interesting.
Yeah, so the way that this article kind of uses the trans survey, you know, like saying transgender people face higher rates, which may be true, but like saying that is according to the survey, it's like the survey doesn't compare anything to like a control, like a cis control, for one, and two, the survey doesn't, nor has any actual study come to the conclusions that these are all manifestations of the massive rates of discrimination. They could be manifestations of being fucking mentally ill. Mentally ill people are more homeless and suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
And have serious psychological distress. Like,
that'll tie into something else that happened this week.
Should we just move on to that? Is there anything else you want to say about this?
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that.
All right, what is it?
So, this is the World Health Organization.
Right.
Yeah, has officially removed transgender from the list of mental disorders. It said it was going to a while back, and now it has. Now, this I'm of two minds about this, because while, you know, being gender nonconforming should never be considered a mental illness, absolutely not. But there's so many mentally ill aspects of being trans, like of dysphoria, that should be considered as much a mental illness as, I don't know, just regular old depression.
Well,
because it's so, because, you know, even though it's, you know, socially caused, it's definitely like, you know, just makes you think very differently about, you know, yourself. Your, you know, body image is very affected by patriarchy.
Sure.
And so it should be actually maybe not depression, but more like anorexia.
Sure.
Is considered
body dysmorphia,
a mental illness. Yeah. And yeah, so that's a huge part of it. And I feel like everybody just hates this idea now, because they're like, oh, I can, you know, just be, you know, I can just go ahead and transition and like medically, and everything will be female now, and so my dysphoria won't, you know, matter anymore. But it doesn't get rid of dysphoria. That's the secret truth, and a lot of radfems know this.
I think a lot of trans people should know this, because
I think they should know it, but like the new ones don't know it. The new ones don't know it at all.
I know,
and
it's
even
so
like
weird.
the older ones who've like had successful transitions are either just so fucking psycho in the head from being like an old AGP person. Like those people are just off their fucking rockers. I have no idea what's going on there. It's really horrible. Or they're just a total bimbo airhead, you know, just surgery addicted HSTS, who are also like have probably worse BPD than AGPs, as I understand it. It's just nuts.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very common in like trans groups where like there's a lot of new trans people, for people who have transitioned, to say that their dysphoria is actually getting worse, especially for AGPs, I think. I think once you're confronted with, like, how far from your ideal woman you actually are, yeah, I can imagine but yeah, I mean, honestly, I think most trans people, not all, some need, like, a lot more help, but, like, especially these young trans people, like, they just need to fucking get out of their house and get a hobby and, like, just stop thinking about themselves so much and, like, start thinking about, like, using their hands to make something, or, like, just shit outside of themselves and, like, outside of their fucking mirrors. But the World Health Organization moved gender incongruence, which is, like, gender dysphoria, into, like, just sexual health. I don't think being transgender can be defined as a mental illness, because I don't think being transgender is defined in the first place.
Right.
But I don't think that necessarily just, like, you know, it depends on what we mean by being transgender, if it's a mental illness or not. If it's just, like, presenting yourself as the opposite sex, I don't think that's necessarily a mental illness. If it's, like, a compulsion to do it that cannot be, that takes all of your energy and all of your resources that you need to, like, work and take care of yourself, and, like, it requires all of those things, which leaves you in a poor state of being in your life, then that would be, like, by definition, a mental illness.
Right. It's yeah, this, like, this move is being questioned by trans medicalists, from what I can tell, which seems also odd to me, because it seems also of two minds to me. So I feel like there's a center to be gathered from all this. Their take is essentially, well, this, demedicalized transness, and we want transness medicalized because it validates us. That's my understanding of transmedicalism, really, is that it's validation that they want from transmedicalism. But there's this other more interesting strain of transmedicalism, which is very much like, I acknowledge that what I have is a disorder, and that the specific help that I'm getting for it is not, like, some kind of, like, fun identity thing. And that's kind of a little bit where I'm at. Like, I understand that pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's
like,
easy
just
to understand.
Just thinking about how I would not want to go back to, like, at least my old body, or, like, my old name or anything. That kind of means that, like, I feel like I still do have dysphoria, even though I've interrogated it as much as I have to be able to be called a man and be fine with it. It's just a fact. It does bother me.
I saw today somebody talking about identifying as disabled, and a rad femme was like, what the fuck, like, you either are disabled or you're not. How do you, like, you can't identify as disabled. And I don't know why I brought that up, but I was reminded of that. Like, it's just such all this identity.
Let's go to the next story.
All right, what do we got?
The next story is the one about the vicar here.
Oh yeah. So did you read
Vicar resigns after being silenced over a Church of England school's plan to keep an 8-year-old pupil's quote unquote, which are not there, sex change a secret from parents.
Did you listen to the audio from that?
I did not.
Okay, so it's like 15 minutes long, and it's kind of like it's the questions portion of a mermaid's training. And he's being so polite, but he is kind of bringing up, like, you know, a different point of view for sure. And he comes ready. He's got like articles and stuff. He's trying to quote things. And this happened in March, I think. And he tries kind of, you know, saying like, can I ask some questions? Can I finish my question? And he continues to get shut down. And like the mermaid's trainer is just like, I don't have to answer your questions. I'm just paid here to do my training, even though it was like open question time. And then like the head, you know, of the school was like really shutting him down. And at the very end, like you can hear that they sort of like dismiss everybody, and he's like crying. They were so mean to him and just shutting him down. And he was just trying to be like, you know, a critical thinker, and I guess he has like a biology background. It's the anybody who hasn't yet listened to or at least read the transcripts of Mermaid's presentation, there's a 2-parter somewhere on the internet. I don't know how you're just, I don't know, Google it. It's so crazy. It's like complete nonsense. And it was the same trainer, I recognize the voice, that was training this vicar as is in the in the leaked audio of like the full training. And it's craziness. It's so crazy. I can't believe that people sit through it and aren't like, that doesn't sound right. But I get it. Like people, like the authority of it makes people go like, I don't get it. Must be something wrong with me. I guess I'm slow.
Like it's the what I understand everything about mermaids, they don't say anything like that would be considered radical from my understanding of transness, because like I am so desensitized to crazy trans stuff, like trans periods and stuff. That's like the forefront of radical transness to me right now. But like that's only because like I'm desensitized to this. I can only imagine just even how like, what man who even like thinks he can be a woman, that's like totally outside of any rationality to me, because I understand trans ideology, and like I understand also now that it's like it's total nonsense, but like yeah, like it's still just it's just in my head in that way. Well, and so mermaids is yeah.
Well, with mermaids, it's not like trans women get periods kind of stuff. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like I think the scariest part about mermaids is that to most like normies, it probably does make some amount of sense, because they'll be like, you know, oh, take a look at our chart. It goes from Barbie to G.I. Joe. And your gender falls somewhere on that line. And I think since most people know very, you know, boyish boys and very girly girls, they're like, oh, okay.
It's also that mermaids is just fucking stupid.
It's just fucking
like,
stupid.
Yeah, just even most trans people I know should realize just how fucking stupid mermaids is for like the gender spectrum shit. Like only like total like wackos think anything about that. Like
I can't believe how much support mermaids gets when they are like saying this shit that like really ought to sound like almost conservative to people. Like, whoa, that's old fashioned. You think girls are Barbies and boys are G.I. Joes? Like, but then they'll just be like, and also some people are totally off of the spectrum. You know what I mean? Like they'll just like couch it and just like weird, like non-binary.
Yeah, it's just like
it's shit.
Yeah, I know, but like that's like mainstream trans ideology to me now, which is that's truly radical. It really is. Let's do Supreme Court won't hear appeal to overturn Boyertown transgender bathroom policy.
TERFs BTFO'd.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you know about this case? I can tell you about it if you don't.
I'm pretty sure Berks County in Philadelphia. I guess I don't know about this one. I knew about that one that it was like the Virginia like trans male one, like FTM one. Gavin something. Like that's the only one that I knew about one of these cases.
Yeah, this one is the complainant I think is a female and I think there wasn't actually a student identifying as female. It's sort of like they didn't. I don't think this is why the Supreme Court decided not to hear it, but I think this is just a detail of the case that they did not wait for an actual incident. They just went ahead and filed it on the basis of the rules that were put into place by the school. And so this lawsuit involved the Women's Liberation Front, probably, full disclosure, with some Heritage Foundation money, because Heritage Foundation gave Wolf like $50,000 or something like that in order to fight these court cases. But other than that, they were used on these court cases. As far as I know, it was kind of no strings attached for the money. Like, they're just, wow. Yeah. That doesn't bother me. I know it bothers other people. I know it bothers the shit out of Kathy Brennan. I can't fucking care about it. I don't care. I know people are like, conservatives, but I'm just like, you know what? If that's your politics, you're a baby. Grow up.
It really is just like all this like, I can't have anything to do with people who aren't in my ideology. Like that's somehow associating with Nazis or something. Like who cares if you associate with whoever? Ooh, Jesus associated with the lepers, etc.
Right. Seriously, like just grow up. Grow up. People have different opinions of you, and then they find out that... Be
Christ-like like me.
Yeah, exactly. Be Christ-like like us. Us Christ TERFs.
Yes.
But people...
Jesus wasn't an adult human female.
Well, he did wear dresses. But the I think the thing that people end up finding out, or like maybe they don't like put two and two together, is they can just be like, conservatives are so bad. I can only be near people who like believe the same things as me. And then they find out that the people near them who believe most of the same things as them don't believe all of the same things as them. And then there's all this infighting and like, it's like, when are you going to find your perfect, like, political twin and then just, like, go live on an island where you just agree with each other all the time? Like, again, third time, gonna say it again, grow up.
I didn't even know the Women's Liberation Front did court cases.
Oh, yeah. Kara Dansky is a lawyer who used to work for the ACLU. And then I think they work with that other ACLU lawyer who had to resign, that black woman who, I don't remember which state it was, but it was like a bathroom bill thing that had all these other problems in it.
Right, also, I know what you're talking about. It was, I think it was North Carolina even.
Or Georgia, yeah. Yes, maybe it was North Carolina, but anyway.
Yeah, I remember that. She was on The View.
Yeah, and they were really mean to her.
They were mean to her.
Raven Simone or whatever is such a dumbass. Anyway, moving on, I guess.
Women are stupid. What can you say?
Well, Raven's stupid.
Celebrities
are stupid.
That's it's the thing. You gotta say, even if they're women, if they're celebrities, they're probably stupid.
Probably. What's next?
We've only got one more story here.
Oh, we're moving at a great rate.
In the other stories category.
Okay.
Which is a look inside the world of incels, or involuntarily celibate men, who believe fixing their bone structure will fix their dating lives. This one is very interesting to me. It's that NY Mag article about the incels who get surgery to look more like Chads.
All right.
It's like reverse dysphoria, becoming more masculine, even if you're starting masculine.
My confusion about it is that, like, I thought that incels knew that their problem was foremost their personalities. And, like, is somebody who is
it's just shifted a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I know that they do talk about, like, oh, man, you know, you didn't want to talk about the ContraPoints video, but it's all very related.
Fuck. Okay, say what you have to say about it.
She starts out talking about her facial feminization surgery, and then talks...
I'm getting it too, bitch. I'm coming for you.
And then she talks about how it hasn't made her really happier. And then she talks about, like, what beauty means and, like, wearing makeup and stuff. But, like, it's all pretty bad and wrong. But then she ends with, like, a pretty decent... And, yeah, I'm, like, kind of skipping over, like, what it is and why it's bad and why it's wrong because you didn't watch it. But she does end, like, her conclusion is that people should care about style instead of beauty because style is something that you can have creative control over.
People think that she is, like, this, like, oh, there's a great contrarian transsexual who, like, really digs deep against, you know, the trans bullshit.
No.
And it's like, fuck no. She's a TRA. Are you kidding me? Don't even talk to her.
I'm not allowed to talk to ContraPoints. Fauci said.
No, the men tell women what to do. So
telling me which men I can talk to. Burn. Sorry, ContraPoints.
Come on. Boo.
I called her.
You like ContraPoints way too much.
I called her him last episode because you encouraged me to. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking about it ever since. I felt like, oh man, I got socially pressured into misgendering.
Shaking my ass. I'd say shaking my ass instead of shaking my head.
Well, you're going to have a nice big butt pretty soon, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And then ContraPoints is not going to have that, so all the men whose attention I care about pay attention to me.
All right. What were we talking about? Why did I start talking about ContraPoints?
We were talking about the incels.
Oh, right, the incels.
Who go under the knife.
Right. Oh, well, yeah. So she did talk about them, the way that they talk about skincare and they try to, like, masculinize it. So it's like max face care, like maxing out your, you know, attractiveness potential. Like, they can't just say, like, it's my beauty routine. But yeah, okay, incels. Tell me about incels. What do they want? Why are they getting surgery?
They're getting surgery because for some reason now they think that the body does matter more than the personality. They're developing their own incel dysphoria codes, like bigger jaws, more masculine. Mm-hmm. And this guy looks like he has like an embossed forehead a little bit.
Yeah, the cover guide.
Which is pretty funny because probably the biggest FFS procedure is brow bone removal. That's like the only one that's covered in a lot of insurance companies, and then the rest is considered not as important.
Oh, really?
Which is kind of weird.
Even over the chin?
Even that.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, and yeah. So I never even thought about brow bone until I was learning about like facial feminization and like from the language of like HSTS, who like knew about like specific things that can make you masculine in your face and make you not masculine in your face. Like I never even thought about any of that stuff. And now incels are kind of adopting the same principles of facial composition, sexed facial composition, but they're applying it in the opposite.
Right, like trying to max out the masculine.
To get so obsessed with something like that can only really be described as like developing dysphoria.
Uh-huh.
That's what the incels are up to, which is very interesting also because incels are so close to trans women already.
Yeah.
We're all failed men.
Right.
So some of us deal with it by maxing out our femininity, or like being totally fucking autistic and completely failing to, or maxing out our masculinity as such. And what comes with the latter is misogyny, but misogyny isn't erased in the former either. Mm-hmm. It is actually just kind of warps. Mm-hmm. So, yep, that is a very interesting dynamic I see in this whole deal.
How much do you think that, like, so for incels, they think that it's their looks. Many of them know that it's their personality. I think it's their personality. Mm-hmm. I personally feel, but we've talked about this before, so I won't talk about it too much, that for trans women who feel like they're not getting laid, I think it's your personality, hon, not your transness.
Right, yeah.
Also, but like, how much of like transness or like the desire to transition do you think is like based on a victim complex and personality? Not for everybody, but you know, in general, like
what's a victim complex?
Victim.
Oh,
like
how much of transness is based on a victim complex? Like a white male victim complex?
Yeah, like well, you know, I've definitely, we've talked about it before, how related incels and trans people or trans women, I should say, some trans women, and white nationalists and MRAs all have a lot in common. Or at least are responding to the same social zeitgeist.
Well, definitely, the thing about a trans victim complex, which is incredibly, like, obvious that's like something that's taking over culture right now, is trans victim complex. Stuff like I'm offended by the Snapchat filter, you know, getting any kind of social traction. That can only be seen as a trans victim complex. And yeah, I wasn't made super comfortable by a lot of that usage of that, but like that was kind of almost like a selfish mentality of mine. The same mentality they have of that is like my gender is not a costume, and that language almost rings like something to me, because like it's mostly just like I put in a lot of effort into this, and this is like appropriation of that struggle, which is like nobody made you you know, transition, really. I mean, you definitely, you know, like you could super get influenced by it, but if you have like this kind of conception of transness as a struggle, like why do you feel it was so necessary? And their reasoning is because it's a medical condition, essentially. And but is it that's the whole question here.
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Let's go into dumb online shit.
Okay, let's move on.
Dumb online shit.
Dumb online shit time.
We have a lead story in this one, which is typically the Twitter stories I'm like pretty fucking bored by, to be honest. Like someone's suspended, someone, you know, like comes back, and I'm like, it's all just like about like the Twitter language. Can you can't misgender on Twitter anymore, or they'll find you. And like it's just like I don't understand why there are all these middle-aged women who care so much about the Twitter rules. Like, I just don't relate to that. We've been over that.
But this one is interesting because what is happening, like what it revealed, like the story underneath it. Like, yeah, the person was kicked for misgendering.
No, yeah, oh yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I was about to say, revealing. Like, yeah, this story, on the other hand, is very revealing because this is the most amazing example of corporate hate speech language. You know, one of the most strident examples of that, especially applied to transness, is what happened is Twitter suspended a woman for reporting a trans activist stalking and harassment. That is a paraphrase of just the title of the story. Did you read this?
I did read it. So the details are I'm
sorry, I didn't read like anything.
It's fine. There's a Catholic woman named Caroline Farrow in the UK who's I think she must be somewhat famous for something. I don't know what it is. Maybe she's like a reporter for like the Catholic Times or something. I don't know. But she ran afoul of the TRAs, and she said some things like in the UK, like police will come to your door for like saying something mean about somebody online, or some mean is obviously subjective, but so this Stephanie Hayden dude who like sues everybody, he like has been stalking Caroline and like changing his schedule so he's everywhere that she is, but then also filing a restraining order on her and then putting her in a position where like she's in legal trouble for being near him. A different woman reported on it, wrote a tweet, but used called Stephanie Hayden an abusive man and he pronouns. Another TERF bites the dust.
This story is particularly fascinating. Yeah, just for like how strident it is. Again, like over reporting this, like Stephanie Hayden has already had, police come to somebody's door, put someone in jail over Twitter. So, like, there's just a few trans people who there's a few people in general who seem to have influence over Twitter. Jonathan Yanov is one of them. Sarah Jong is a big one, was originally like an anti-Gamergator, and then I remember started suspending like all my friends who were not Gamergate just for being like I don't know, rude in general. It was like a huge thing. Like I don't even remember, but like Felix Biederman was part of that purge. A lot of influence at Twitter, even if they don't seem to work for it at all. It's very strange.
I don't.
It's really shady.
I don't think that Stephanie Hayden has any particular influence over Twitter. I just think that's like UK law, but the Yanov thing made it so that people could get kicked off for misgendering. I mean, it is a rule. It's been in place. I mean, misgendering is against the Twitter rules. It's clearly stated. Yeah. So.
Well, Stephanie Hayden took pretty fast advantage of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, she probably has Google alerts on her name. What else do we have?
This is the tweet. You'll soon find out who it's from. I think I can now announce that I have accepted the position of Director of Women's Studies at Rutgers University, Newark. Relatedly, we can finally answer the age-old question, how do I know when my transition is over? Like, how can you not think that, like, this is just, like, a war on women at this point? It's just constant. Men in women's positions, in women's spaces,
Yeah, like we want your stuff, and we're gonna do it better than you, and like step aside, ladies. On one hand, it's like I'm sure the women's studies department is all gender bullshit anyway, and that's not even like the first or second or third trans woman that I've heard of who's like the head of or a big deal in a women's studies department. It seems like trans women really, not all of them, but, you know, a lot of them really love getting into those female spaces, getting that sick validation. But I don't have a lot to say about it. It's just fucking like, okay, great, another one. Like, congrats, hun.
That's right. Oh, yeah. I forgot what we were talking about.
Oh, yeah. Just fucking trans women heading up women's study departments.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
It's like...
That's why TERFs need to start their own universities. Their own groups. Like, I've said it before. I'm going to keep repeating myself. More building the matriarchy. Smashing the patriarchy is all fine and well, but like, build the matriarchy, people. Start something. Get outside. All right, continue.
This tweet here is someone arguing that this entire gender-free BS was created by a trans woman, True Scum. It was her suggest at a meeting of the minds. What? So trans women, True Scum, not True Scum trans women, are having meetings of the minds with
TERFs,
the influencers of TERF aesthetic, to create gender-free, which is something that is not even close to True Scum ideology.
Someone's mad.
I don't even like dogs.
Whoa, you better cut that out of the podcast. You're gonna get so much shit. Okay, yeah. What do you? I thought the gender free thing. I didn't jump on board, but I do support it, and I like the black and white flag emoji for it.
Yeah, the thing about it is that it's the same thing as agender. It's just which is like, gender free is correct, and so is agender. But the way I see it is that everybody is, and it's not an identity, and so gender free shouldn't be like this identity. Even if you consider it more of a political one, it still rings, like your gender identity, which is not a real thing.
Well, I think they're saying, like, you can't, we're playing by your rules, and now you can't call us cis because we don't identify as the stereotypes.
I don't think that we should play by their rules. So.
Well, no, I mean, I think in it's not so much playing by their rules, it's using their rules to demonstrate that the rules are stupid. And, I'm sure it was just chosen because it is an emoji, but I think symbolically, I really like the idea of like a checkered black and white flag to kind of, to kind of show that everything is like more nuanced. Everything is good or bad or whatever. I don't know. I like the symbolism of it. It strikes me as an interesting thing that isn't really going anywhere.
I don't love the ontology of it is the only thing, or the praxis of it either, really. But anyway, the people who do it are my allies. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but it's still just like one of the most conspiratorial trans things that I've heard. Like this idea that so TERFs are in bed with conservatives because like 3 heritage related things happened. And also, who cares? Does that prove that radical feminism is conservative?
Nope. Just
because
not. Yeah.
Just because. Yeah. Because. So it's just a mindless push forward, like even it's not. I don't. A lot of TERFs, I think, are also conspiratorial and think that this is some kind of intentional push to by I don't know, some Illuminati of males to move to invade womanhood, to the colonization of womanhood is like an intentional scheme.
I think
it's more more just like building off of its own ideology. But anyway,
yeah, I mean, I think
this trans conspiracy on the other end of it is just like that also now TERFs are in bed with true scum.
Oh, kind of.
No, I mean not maybe in like a really dumb way.
I think there's a bit of coalition.
Sometimes, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of one, but I feel like that's really stupid, honestly. I think most of the women involved in that don't really get the dangers of transness. I'm gonna mansplain it to you, okay? No, we won't go into that. But anyway, the main thing here is that again, ironically now, but this also suggests that a man had this, feminist idea, which is, I mean,
just
insulting.
Come on. Yeah. All right. What's next?
Sarah, whose name has been changed to protect her safety and identity, opened up about the experience on Twitter after being misgendered in Aunt Charlie's Lounge in San Francisco on April 27th. This being misgendered in public turned into a news story?
Yes. And when Pink News tweeted the article, in the tweet, what they used was oh my god, what does she say? You probably have it in front of you. She says something like, I felt all alone in the world or something. And there weren't many responses to that. And I tweeted back at Pink News bit extreme, no? Or bit dramatic, no? And I don't remember exactly what I said. And the person who the article is written about responded to me with 3 or 4 tweets about their whole story and what the article left out, and it was so manic. I didn't even read it. It's okay, psycho. All right. And they were it was a bar crawl, and they went to all these different gay bars, and I wasn't about to get into a Twitter argument with the person who's actually in the fucking article, but it's just
so
yeah, you're mental.
So a drag queen misgendered her?
Good. I mean,
yeah,
not
that's
good.
Dope.
It's funny.
It is good. Shout out to drag queens for knowing what's up.
It's interesting though, because in the article, this trans woman says that Sarah says that they couldn't go, that they wanted to go to this gay bar, but it said please note this is a bar for gay men, and so they were oh, I don't feel comfortable, and that they couldn't go to a lesbian bar because they were afraid of TERFs. They hadn't heard anything about the particular lesbian bars. They didn't have any information. I think sounds like they're, I don't know, but they just were all lesbian bars are full of TERFs, which, honestly, if that's the going thought that better stay away from lesbian bars, they're full of TERFs, I think that's a good thing. That means TERFs are starting to get back, gain back some ground. Yeah,
it's not true.
It's not true, but
it's like the thing is nice. Like there's so few fucking lesbian bars anyway.
Right, most of them closed because supposedly because of too many men.
Is that really why?
Yeah, well, so like people who are, so in general there's a bunch of feminist spaces that have closed down, not just lesbian spaces, but those are very interrelated. But you know, I guess you have to take it with a grain of salt because it's obviously, I'm reading TERF stuff, but I've definitely, you know, and they may interpret long spans of history in a particular way. But, I mean, if you just take a look at Mitch Fest, which is pretty well documented, which is a huge lesbian thing that closed down, and there's a bunch of other spaces that have similar histories where, you know, half the lesbians wanted to include trans women. They were kind of, you know, bedazzled or bamboozled, and then the other half were like, no, you know, this is supposed to be a female space, but it would always be like 1 or 2 or 3, you know, a small number of trans women. So like the ones who were like, no, they just look like assholes. And it would just be all the infighting about whether or not to include these men, and like eventually the spaces just come down. But from my understanding, a lot of lesbian bars within the last 10 years had just become more and more and more and more trans women, and a lot of lesbians just got sick of it and they just stopped coming.
Right. That's very, very sad. Every time I hear this, like, it's just you can't blame them for being conspiratorial.
I know.
Just it's so convenient that like the feminist world is splintering so deeply that it is, and due to just, you know, just men's entitlement. Like, how could it not like feel just like,
yeah,
just it's so on the nose almost, like after after like, you know, gaining like any ground at all, even just culturally, still, it's very, very sad. But anyway, the end of this part. Okay, yeah. Are you sure?
Well, no, yeah. Well, actually, yeah. I just want to say, just with respect to what I was just talking about, last week I recommended the book Female Erasure. A lot of those stories about lesbian spaces and about feminist spaces, from like firsthand accounts of like how it went down, are in that book. So get that book. All right, continue.
The end of this article is amazing. Her experience in the San Francisco gay bar was not her first run-in with cisgender drag performers. At her city's Pride Festival, Sarah said drag performance asked to hear a shout-out from gay men, then from lesbians, then from allies. Oh, they didn't say trans people. They didn't say it.
Oh my God. Listen, Marsha P. Johnson didn't shoot 10 cops so that you could forget about trans people on Pride.
Oh, fucking hell. I mean, what? Okay, gay, lesbian, and then ally? Like, what? Are you implying, like, I don't know, something like, straight trans women don't have privilege? That's the only thing that I could think. But that's, anyway, that is the typical stupid oppression Olympic logic of like, not, you know, like, you know, transbians are somehow more oppressed than straight trans women, which is just ridiculous. Or HSTS.
I mean, they're
AGP more oppressed than HSTS. Can you believe something like that? Because, like, think about it. Then you have to say that HSTS are homosexual for like them to like retain that. It's just anyway, she goes on to say the explicit privileging of cis heterosexual people, not only over trans and bisexual people, but to they did bi erasure. Okay, sorry, I don't really care that much. But to complete exclusion at an event about all of us hurt every time it happened over the weekend. Okay. Exclusion. All right, here we go. Exclusion
That's
again.
What I'm saying.
Exclusion.
Yeah, I don't think it
this
has
is
anything
not
to
just.
do with
It should not be. There should be way more gay male TERFs, because
there will be.
trans people are not just infesting, women's spaces. They're infesting LGBT spaces. And then everything has to again be about them. Everything that like gay people built. Now history is that Marsha P. Johnson is a big deal.
Who didn't get there until 2 a.m. In fact, Marsha P. Johnson didn't get there until 2 a.m. when it was already in full swing. And also didn't identify as a trans woman. Like 2 weeks before his death, he said he was a gay man. And Marsha P. Johnson, like all the gay men were calling each other she. Like that was how they talked.
Right. And so this is just the transing of history. It's very typical. Like again and again, stuff that like is different, maybe even more correct ontologically. Like Marsha P. Johnson was a gay man. Like even like it doesn't. It's regardless whether or not even it shouldn't matter. Is what they like transing to them is like this inherent like scientific way to describe this kind of people now. When but isn't it an identification or whatever as well? Maybe gender is actually like assigned not by yourself. Oh no, can't admit that. It just happens over and over again.
The last thing I just want to say about this, just with respect to Pride and what you were saying about gay men, more gay men TERFs, this is already happening. That like Pride's being canceled in some cities, and that's probably going to continue. As not just trans activists, it's also a lot of the anti-cop shit. Just weakens the ability to just have a nice fucking celebration, and all the infighting and stuff. Like Pride will start becoming less and less popular as trans people demand more and more from everybody. And you have to make everything about themselves. These fucking narcissists.
Well, that's definitely true, but I don't really mind the anti-cop shit. I gotta be honest, like, cause I don't care about Pride in the first place. Like, I wouldn't care about like a cop involved Pride. Like that would be totally meaningless to me. So I'm okay with like the radicalization of queers, like politically. Like I support that as well.
From a feminist perspective, Pride is very problematic, how it has been for a long time, since it became depoliticized and became this, like,
of course,
leather daddy, like, sex celebration, and was just more about, like, drinking and...
It's also just stuff. Corporate as well.
And it's super corporate.
And here's the other thing. I'm not proud of myself at all. So I think if you're like, I find it a very weird thing to be proud of one's identity. Are you having a real struggle? Yeah, then that's fine. Queer people don't really struggle anymore. Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, there's nothing to be proud of.
It should just become a historical party that happens in June. You know what I mean? Like a party celebrating a historical thing happens in June. It shouldn't have all these fucking rules, and like it shouldn't even be political. I don't mind that it's corporate. That's what it should be. It should just become. It should move into the realm of just tradition. And outside of the realm of like political activism, because it's no longer set up to be that. So don't try to make it be that, like just have your party, just enjoy something. Why are you all so miserable? Why do you have to make everything so miserable for other people?
Yeah.
On the other foot.
All right, it's theory sphere time.
It's theory sphere time.
Let's talk about, I had this interesting idea this time. How about trans and cult ideology? We don't talk enough about trans as a cult.
That's true. We don't. What, I mean, obviously I have a lot to say about this, but I didn't really prepare myself. But, what are your feelings on it?
So, to me, what's the most recognizable feature of a cult is a cult leader. So, trans as a cult doesn't seem to make a lot of sense on its front, but it's almost like self-spawned, autonomous cult of patriarchy. Because
Whoa, wait a second.
What?
It's like not every trans person, but like every trans person who's involved in the trans cult is the cult leader to themselves.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's because it's like this chain thread of narcissism.
Oh my god.
It's truly
so
fascinating phenomenon in human history.
This is blowing my fucking mind, man.
Yeah, it's like a crazy nightmare, really.
It's such a nightmare.
Yeah, but also, yeah, it's the trans people indoctrinated into the cult are indoctrinated by sort of this wide beam of information about trans lives that are beamed onto Twitter. There's not particular trans people that are looked up to anymore. It's sort of the whole entire cloud of trans consensus becomes the drug, and that is, yeah, and that is, well, the Kool-Aid kills you, but the ideology is what you get hooked on. And yeah, the trans ideology is exactly that. So,
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's even the cult leader, because they disseminate. It's not just that every trans person is the cult leader to themselves, because they need everybody worshiping them, validating their beliefs. That's not even, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that aspect. I was thinking of it more as like every trans person is the cult leader to somebody else.
Well, sure. Like, I mean, I do think there are like sort of allies and people who
or rather, the other way around. I'm sorry. To the trans person, every other trans person is the cult leader, because it's a cult of peer pressure rather than
that's a good point.
Individual charismatic person.
¿Por qué no las dos? Right? I think both things could be true. Yeah. In that sense.
I mean, they have important figures like Laverne Cox or something.
Yeah, but you know what? Laverne Cox and like the other one, Janet Mock.
Janet Mock.
They're like practically TERFs. You know what I mean? Like these famous trans people. Like yeah, totally. I mean, Janet Mock says something about like trans being a trend. And then you've got like, or something along those lines, and about, being concerned that, the trend stuff was going to delegitimize the whole thing.
Her book is all, no, that's True Scum. Her book is called Redefining Realness. That's out in the open.
I know that's True Scum, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of, as far as TRAs are concerned, True Scum and TERFs are the same thing. It's just all enemies are TERFs.
Driving me nuts.
Yeah,
I hate trans men.
So I mean,
I can talk to trans men's fine. We might have some trans meds on the show at some point.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with trans med. I don't have a problem with
anybody. I don't have a personal problem with trans meds.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't even have a personal problem with Too Cutes, unless they make one. Which they usually do.
It depends on how far trans meds like can get politically. We've already talked about this, but like I just think that because transmed limits things, it's just more better, gooder for women, but it's still bad, but it's less bad in terms of like actual results. But it all really depends on how much they can get away with. Yeah, so like I grew up in a cult, which I don't know, I guess anybody who follows me on Twitter probably knows. I was born and raised into a Scientology family. And so I have a lot of experience with being in a cult. And I definitely recognized, like, not just transness, but also, like, just leftism in general as having a lot of cult-like aspects. And I just remember when I left Scientology and I got out and I kind of started my process of like deprogramming myself, like just making sure that the ideas that I had were actually my ideas and not just kind of leftover culty stuff, you know, weird ideas that had been kind of implanted or, you know, whatever came from that. And I remember thinking, like, you know, now I can really recognize cults. Like, I know what they have. I know how they're structured, and like this won't happen to me. So my initial like idea, like, oh, I know what a cult looks like, was really based on like Scientology, which had like a leader and had like a structure and a hierarchy and, you know, just different aspects. And it took me going through the trans thing as like a liberal feminist kind of, and then kind of being, you know, turf pilled, to realize that cult behavior is everywhere. There's a fine line between cult behavior and just in-group behavior. You know, things that actually tie communities together are often used by cults. You know, swaying and stuff in church, like, binds communities. There's all kinds of things that you can do that are like basically psychological tricks to make people like lose their individuality a little bit and like make the group be more part of the group. The strangest thing is that like transness is like so individual. It's so individualized. It's so about the individual. It really is like.
But it's not about the individual, because it's not actually transness a lot of the time is not actually about what the individual really wants or is best for them. It's about
not what's best for them.
It's about fitting into society as a whole. It is. When you transition, like a lot of people, it's this idea of, you know, being an outcast because of being trans. Why you think the trans cult and Scientology are similar?
So I had a big list of these at one point, and it's funny, I'm so removed from both of them nowadays that I'm like, what is similar? Like, I think the things that I find the most similar, there's kind of like a disconnection thing. So in Scientology, like, if somebody is deemed a suppressive person, that would be like your TERFs, then people who are still in need to disconnect from that person. They need to like not be their friend, you know, unfriend them on Facebook, don't talk to them. And it's not even that, like, you are also supposed to then encourage all the people that you know not to talk to them, and like you can be like connected through it, like a chain of people. Like maybe you don't talk to that person, but if you talk to somebody else who does talk to that person, like that's bad too. And I think that the TRAs function pretty similarly to that. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Just
exactly.
like, oh, somebody said something bad and you need to unfriend them, and you need to make sure that all the people you know unfriend them, and if they don't, then you should unfriend that person too.
That's almost like more a broader social justice cult, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It's more of a broader social justice cult for sure. Another similarity is, well, obviously the massaging of statistics and disingenuous arguments and things like that. Scientology is like really big on calling people like religious bigots and stuff for not liking them. And there's another really funny thing that there's this trans article that's like on like Trans Advocate, and it's like it's some kind of like the truth about Janice Raymond, and it's got this like scary font with like hands pulling puppet strings, and like it just reminded me like so much of Scientology websites, because Scientology will make these like, if somebody like leaves the church and they're speaking ill about them, or like if a reporter is like spending too much time on Scientology and Scientology gets mad at them, they'll like make these crazy websites about like, the truth about Tony Ortega, and they look so similar. Like it's the same kind of like, ooh, scary, who's really behind it, and like, oh, they're just bigots. And it's funny. Yeah, it's so similar. And like just the way that it's like attack. I mean, I'm surprised that
even in the practical mechanics of both of them are very similar. Do you have any similarities about the ideological mechanics? Like, because even in my religion, I just never bought it at all. But I bought trans ideology.
Yeah.
Pretty much hook, line, and sinker. It's very interesting because it presented this solution to my problems of failing manhood, essentially, which I did out of feminism, mind you.
So as a kid, I did believe in Scientology. I bought it when I was pretty young, and like in middle school. There were definitely times where I bought it, but I remember always thinking like that other Scientologists were really embarrassing, and I wish that they would like behave better. And I think that it allowed me to like just excuse a lot of behavior and a lot of things that were like signs of like deeper dumb shit. And I think the same thing happened to me when I was more of a liberal feminist, that I'd be like, well, of course they support, all the things that we all support and we all agree are good, and oh, that's just somebody who's being dumb. Like I would make excuses like that for certain Scientologists too. Like if a non-Scientologist friend of mine met somebody and they were like, that guy was weird, I'm like, oh yeah, he's not that weird, or like, oh, he's not like a normal, there was a lot of like, oh, that's not normal, that's just an aberration, that's not the everyday thing. And I see people do that all the time with the trans stuff now, and I'm sure I did too at one point, where they'd be like, oh, those are just weirdos on the internet. And it's like, no, man, like it's deeper than that. Those are just weirdos on the internet who are willing to say out loud what's actually going on, what's actually being talked about, and what's actually going into these, trans rights organizations, charters and stuff. So I think this is probably true, maybe less for like trans people, but for people who support trans rights and like regular Scientologists and stuff, or like where it's a mirrored experience for me as a Scientologist and as a, somewhat of like a TRA, like a cis ally TRA, was that there's kind of a slow burn of unreality. It's not like you're presented with the weird shit. Like in Scientology, you're not presented with Xenu. Like until you get really, really, really far into it, you're presented, like, when you first start, it's just like, oh, here we have some packets that, will help you with problems at work and, problems in communication and problems in, in your relationships. And it's all, like, actually pretty helpful. And that's where you start. And with the trans stuff, it's the same thing. It's just like, oh, these are just people, they just like you and me. They're just normal people who just want to live their lives. And you're like, oh, okay, that sounds really reasonable. And then it's just like slower and slowly, you get more and more just weird shit, right? Where you're like, oh, okay, so you're telling me that, like, I don't know, yeah, you would just get these little, like, peeks into the weird, like, space opera stuff in Scientology. It was never at the forefront, but you would get these tiny little glimpses of it here and there. And it's the same thing with, like, trans stuff. If you're not really paying attention, you're like, somebody will say something like, well, trans women are female, and you'll be like, that doesn't sound right. That person's probably just weird.
Yeah,
no, that's deeper and deeper.
Yeah, the thing is, it's ideological systems. So I felt extremely vulnerable when trans ideology swooped me up.
Both, Scientology and trans ideology do sell you a series of steps that you can follow that are going to...
Do they target really vulnerable people?
So Scientology kind of targets everybody, but they try to... So one of the things when you first are introduced to Scientology is you take this thing called the OCA, Oxford Capacity Analysis, and it has nothing to do with Oxford. It just makes it sound great, but it's like this personality test that you take, and anybody who's read the rule books know, or like the grading book, like how to grade this thing, know that no matter what, you always come out as like, oh, you have all these areas in your life that you need to improve. And the person who kind of goes over it with you, whose job it is to kind of get you in and sell you in Scientology, they have to do something called finding your ruin, like finding this thing that, like, is causing you trouble and causing you struggle, and to really emphasize it. And they so the people who end up coming in are vulnerable, or they're made to be vulnerable. To be honest, most Scientologists are way more mentally stable than most trans people. But there was something that Scientology kind of picked up on that they had, because everybody's got something. They have relationship problems, or a drinking problem, or whatever. Like, everybody's got something that can be a weakness and be a vulnerability.
So just in trans's case, it's very specific vulnerability. It's the failing of gender, failing of sex stereotypes.
Yeah.
Which is happening to more and more people, because as radical feminists who point out that cis is bullshit realize, is that pretty much all women don't like being women because it's worse than being a man.
Yeah.
So is that, dysphoria on a sex-wide scale? Like, right. It's just this totally, like, just dumb concept.
Yeah,
here it is, a medical condition.
Yeah. Another thing that they both have in common, I'm thinking about it, is that it's just kind of, I think it's just a natural evolution of being really into something that has like a group-based thing. But the idea that people in your out group cannot understand you, and that it's in your best interest to kind of, not necessarily disconnect quite in the same way, like, I'm not talking to you, you're blocked, but kind of like shed them from your life. Like, you don't need those people. You just need us, and because they don't understand you, and you're not. But it's something. It's not like someone's telling you that. It's just something that you just kind of start doing on your own. And I notice, that trans people get more and more like where they're only hanging out with other trans people. Not all trans people, but the people who are really deep.
God, LGBT activists groups like HRC and stuff. Like I'm asking just who is the beneficiary of the trans cult? It's you know, definitely LGBT activist groups who need the money to just keep themselves going is part of it, as is Big Pharma is definitely encouraging this stuff. But like we went over this before, the beneficiary is actually the trans person, the way they disseminate their ideology, because their identity makes them like a special person in the world because of the oppression. Is so you disseminate your ideology because it is the cult of your identity. So every trans person is the cult leader to their friend group, cis and trans. But also, when they disseminate it downward to other people who end up becoming trans, it's like that is another area in which, you know, it's a bit of a pyramid scheme. Which is, you know, a cult itself, but a cult's ultimately that even if, like, you want to escape, you can't. And in a pyramid scheme, because it's economic, you can start to realize that easier because people's economics are not their minds.
Right.
Certainly
and
not in the same way. But
it's got
in
this
this
very...
you're still hooked on the trans ideology because you think it's the only thing that, you know, can make you happy, because somehow to be trans, to, you know, just even present trans, you have to have a certain inherent identity, which is just ridiculous and misogynist, of course. So
Right.
Yeah,
Of course.
that's it for that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're both cults. I mean, I think a lot of things are cult-like. Just so you know, just so everybody knows, it's not just like. But yeah, I mean, clearly, there's actually a lot more to be said about it. But I think we should call it a day.
All right. Yeah, we've got a whole, you know, horizon of new episodes where it can be discussed here and there. So.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah, I lied. There's no new song this week either.
Men are all liars.
Oh, that's music to my ears, though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's good night for episode 5 of the TERFCAST. Wow, we've been doing it for 5 weeks.
That's pretty good, yay.
It's pretty good. It's longer than I've done most things.
I'll probably not be high next episode.
You know.